Hello, David.
Nina.
I feel like it's been a little while.
It's been a little while since we made a video.
Nobody out there knows because we made such a nice backlog during the summer.
Movie magic.
But all of a sudden it's winter, we're in coats,
Mm-hmm.
it's cold, there's mud. Hope everybody out there is doing well. What do you want to talk about
Well,
today?
who are we? We are the equestrian pedestrian.
We are the equestrian pedestrian. We are Built and Beautiful. We are the evolving equestrian. We are Summerwood Stables. So if you want to look for us on social media, you can look for all those different groups and pages.
Lots to learn, lots to talk about.
So what about today?
What do you have in mind?
I just came from a very challenging Facebook debate, as I often do before I get to the barn. I'm spending my time on social media, mostly trying to help people, but sometimes I get involved in, something to debate. And there was something today about barrel racing. You don't know what that is, do you?
Never heard of it.
Well, what do you imagine that it is by just the way that it sounds?
Well, you mentioned something where horses balance on barrels. I don't know if that's the same thing.
No, that's a circus trick.
Okay.
That's a whole other video that we're
Okay.
gonna do.
Okay.
Probably today after we finish this one, we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, I would have no guess. I would think literally racing barrels. You spin one, I spin one.
So barrel racing, there are a sequence of barrels, just like when you weave the cones and you place all the cones out in a sequence and you ask the horse to weave. So imagine instead if those were barrels, and now the contest or the competition aspect
I've
would
seen
be
some videos where the horses turn around.
to go as fast as you can through the sequence of barrels.
Is that where they do those really fine turns? Those point turns?
They have to turn really.
Those are brutal.
Really
I've seen a couple
sharp.
random videos and it does not look good for the horse.
Have you ever seen any still pictures from it?
No.
I saw a stop action still photo from a woman doing barrel racing
that's
at a
interesting.
national rodeo event, and everybody was making a big fuss about how wonderful she and her horse were. And the horse is literally,
Sideways?
no, sitting down.
Oh.
Its hocks are so overburdened in practically a sitting position,
right.
going at this it's funny because you see a picture like that and you don't maybe think at the same time, when that happened, that horse was actually going 35 miles an hour.
It's fucked up.
While it had to bend itself and do that kind of a contortion.
Yeah.
So the discussion on this group that I am in, or page that I am involved in today, was that this particular woman who was doing this barrel racing, that she was part of a more gentle breed of barrel racers, because although she kicked the living you-know-what out of her horse, she didn't wear spurs, and she used a snaffle bridle, which is a certain type of a bit, although she was hanging on it and yanking it and putting all of her weight into her neck reining. Also, too, I noticed that she wasn't sitting. I mean, she was really bouncing a lot,
And that hurts the horse more.
Well, also, too, it doesn't help the horse balance when you're bouncing. When you're sitting deep and you're sitting up and you're sitting very vertically, you can help your horse balance.
Oh, right, you're a top weight.
Yeah, if you're bouncing around, you're making it even more difficult for your
Right.
horse to do a task
Right.
like that. But some woman wrote to me and she said, "Well, you don't know. This woman is so great to her horses. She kept her old retired horse." I'm like,
As if that's a constant.
as if that makes it so she's a good person. That to me is to be expected. This horse worked for you his entire life? Oh, she's a good person because she kept her old horse?
That's funny.
Oh my God, then I must be for sure going to heaven because I am surrounded
saint,
by my
yeah.
old horses. I'm sainted. I
You
must
have the
be
video
sainted.
about the forever horse. It's
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so that because she wasn't wearing spurs and she was wearing what they call a gentle bit. No, bit is gentle. A gentle bit, that she was some sort of, amazing hero to the community.
It's amazing
because
what we
of
say
this.
to make ourselves feel better and rationalize.
And then the woman also pointed out that when her horses are at the showgrounds, she allows them to wander freely in the parking lot area. And so I have to say, oh yes, the wonderful luxury of wandering through the parking lot area. Great consolation. Trevi, how would you like to go to a show and wander around the parking lot area? Does that sound fun? Does that sound like that's a good time for you?
He doesn't seem too excited about that.
Oh gosh. So this is a sport in the rodeo that falls under the umbrella of rodeo sports. Do you know of any other rodeo sports? Bronc riding,
I don't even know what that
which is you get on the horses that are trying to buck you off.
Oh, I know that.
Right,
Yeah.
and they actually breed
Oh, I thought
horses.
it was bulls that do that. I didn't know
Bulls
horses do that.
and horses. Bulls
That's
and
awful.
horses.
That's
So it's
disgusting.
bronc riding and bull riding. So the cowboy or cowgirl or cow child gets on this horse, and the horse's primary duty is to buck. Now some horses are bred to buck. My horse Speedy, I believe, was bred to buck.
Oh, was he a bucker?
Oh, he was a bucker. And some horses have a stronger DNA and are urged to buck. And some horses, after they do a certain amount of bucking, they're like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's taxing. You know what happened to our poor old Maverick when he went on a bucking spree during turnout?
Oh.
He hurt his back.
Is that common?
An older horse with arthritis going out and doing some bucking like that, for sure.
Their whole thing is like,
oh yeah,
like a scorpion.
exactly. I mean, a spine. I couldn't go out and buck, and even at my age.
It didn't look so bad, but now that I think about it, for an older horse who doesn't have as much muscle and can't control his paw,
Yes, and doesn't have that flexibility in their spine.
it's just something.
Oh, gosh,
something
yeah.
gotta give. Oh,
Yeah.
poor guy. Yeah.
So our old horse was feeling, he's, I don't know, somewhere in his 30s, and he went out into the arena and was having
the time of his life.
time of his life. Could have been the last day of his life. We didn't know what happened to him. He really, really overdid it and had a few really bad days after that.
So any extreme movements.
Yeah, so a lot of these horses, you know, when they talk about, say, a pleasure or a riding or a show horse, we don't want those horses to buck. And you say, well, I'm having that horse bucked out. That means that someone is brave enough to get on and just let that horse do all the bucking it needs to do and wants to do until it sees this is pointless. Well, obviously, those rodeo horses also have learned that it's pointless. So you know what they do? They put a special strap on them.
I hate hearing all these things.
That causes them an irritable feeling that makes them want to buck. It's called a bucking strap. So they enforce the bucking. Here's my question though, because we could talk about each of these events. There's something called horse tripping, and that's in the Charro Rodeo. So that's the Mexican rodeo, where they trip the horses, and horses break their legs all the time, and it's really very, very gruesome. There's another thing, an ex-student, some guy that she was dating did some sort of a sport where you like jumped off of your riding horse and you literally jumped on top of some small horse and pinned this horse down to the ground, two guys, and tied it up or something.
I didn't consent to hear all these disturbing things.
Sorry, David.
It's awful.
I'm so sorry.
I'm just trying to, like,
I'm sorry, you're gonna have nightmares
this
tonight.
is terrible. Like,
Well, you can see all this for yourself and pay to go see it
I'm
at the
happy
rodeo.
you're not knowing about these things.
See, me too, because I would love to sit here and give everybody a bunch of statistics, like X amount of horses get hurt every year at the rodeo, but I don't want to even know. I don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
So you are more than invited to Google it for yourself and see how many horses every year get hurt. But what I did read just real quickly before we started today, the types of injuries: broken backs, broken legs, broken necks, all kinds of torn and ripped tendons in the legs, in the back, and the neck, punctured lungs from hitting something against a railing or on the chute or a steer or a bull or what have you. When they do like the roping, the horse can get, pronged, but they call it something, gored by the horns. There's so many things that can happen. And to make matters worse, I think they said it was about 40 people out of 1,000 will die during rodeo. So my question to you is, why is this necessary? Why is rodeo necessary? Why is the circus on its way out and people don't want to do the circus anymore? They don't want to see it. They don't want the animals to be involved in it. Cirque du Soleil, fine, or maybe even Cavalia. but no more traditional circus. But why is the rodeo still going?
I guess certain places it's part of the culture, and then the other answer is like the common one of greed and ego.
Yeah, so it goes back to the same things again. And then I think too, denial and lack of education. Because I wonder if I got on to one of these groups with the cold hard facts of how many horses die, get injured, and how many people die and get injured, and pose that question, so why do you think it's necessary, even if it is part of your culture? Come on, there's been many parts of our culture
Right.
that we look at and go, what were we thinking?
Yes.
Can't rodeo just be one of those things where we say, what were we thinking?
I think one day it will be, but it might not be for another 20 years.
It might not be soon enough.
Yeah.
It might not be soon enough for the horses, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It makes me feel, David, should we be doing anything with horses where they have to be physically forced to do it? One guy brought up, or maybe it was a woman, somebody brought up a really, really good point. They said, if you are having to kick your horse like that, this person recognized that woman was kicking the horse an awful lot, and this is another barrel racer that made this comment,
wow.
and said, all I have to do is make a kissy sound, and my horse is off to the races. I don't have to kick it.
Right.
So they said, if you are having to kick your horse like that, or having to pull it or yank it, and it seems like it's not excited or happy or willing to do its job, aren't there 500 other jobs that maybe it could do?
Right.
Maybe it's not suitable for that job.
No, but
My sister and I said that if we ever had to use, I think I told you this before, a crop or a whip to get our horse Speedy to jump, that would be the last day that he would ever jump.
Yeah.
That he would never be forced to do something. We would never want to whip him over a jump, or whip him into an upper level dressage movement, or whip him or spur him around a course of barrels or play games or what have you. Don't you think?
it reminds me of like you could teach people how to recycle into trash, recycle and compost, but you can't force them. So what we're doing is we're just constantly trying to raise this awareness, and hopefully over time people will change. But it's kind of depressing that there's this established.
And it's old, and that's the problem.
So
people are so.
They think it's the way it's gonna be. And
people are very unwilling to examine traditions.
yeah.
I think that's probably gotten us into a lot of war,
For sure.
a lot of trouble, when we are unwilling to examine why it is we do things and why it's still important in a new world, in a changing world, in an evolving and growing consciousness. Why would that still be important? What value really does it have? Oh, you got to win a big fat belt buckle? Go out and buy it. It's safer. It's probably going to be way cheaper for you to go out and buy that belt buckle.
Yeah.
Oh, but I want to earn it. You want to earn it by knowing that you exploited and hurt horses? Why would you want to earn that? Let your horse have a nice day in the pasture and go out and buy yourself a belt buckle. Right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Okay, I think we've exceeded our time limit for today.
16 minutes.
And so you're not happy about it, because I can tell you've got that look on your face like I wish
It's
I wish I didn't know anything about this.
And it's kind of sad.
It is very
I feel
sad.
like there's not much we can do. I mean, you're carrying the torch. You're doing everything you can do. But that's
I mean,
about it.
without going and picketing a rodeo, which I wouldn't do that. I don't have the time for it. I don't even want to be that close to a rodeo. So, but besides that, no, I mean, raising awareness and talking about it and having these discussions.
Yeah, I think over time you might convert one person, or you might have somebody just stop using their spurs, and that's a win. So
Right.